Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our second of our new series, our mini webinar sessions from Aqua Security. Today, we're going to be talking about quantifying the dollar value of runtime security, and we're going to be introducing Aqua's new dashboard suite. These sessions are recorded. You will receive the copy of the recording in your email shortly after. And just a reminder, this is a monthly session. We will have these 20-minute, again, just snackable, bite-sized pieces of content for you the last Thursday of every month. So if you register, you can register for the full series and join us every Thursday where we talk about timely topics and also new and exciting product innovations from Aqua. So let's get started. Again, I promise to keep you all to the 20-minute session. So we're going to start just with, what is the current problem? What are you all facing today? What do we hear from customers, prospects alike, which is data without decisions and this constant decision paralysis. And, what we're starting to see and have seen for the past several years, and of course, the AI problem has continued to accelerate this, which is teams are drowning in data. They're flooded with vulnerability lists, priority lists, but all of this information lacks context. And I think you could go on any cybersecurity website and talk about, reducing the noise or limiting the noise. It's a constant problem that we have been facing for the past several years in security. But again, the new world of AI, which is just accelerating this vulnerability information, but also vulnerability exploits, just puts a giant exclamation point on this problem. And what we know and where the industry has continued to evolve is posture management does not equal protection. Static dashboards are not going to show the effectiveness for how we are protecting our live applications in runtime. And what this leads to is, our leaders cannot simply answer, are the protections that we have in place or what we're doing to protect our running workloads, is it actually working? And we end up in this situation where we have complete analysis paralysis, right? Decision paralysis, where we have security issues, but what should we do? Our teams are coming in every day with different lists, different severities, different orders of priority. And without any real guidance, it's very difficult to understand where to go. What is the most critical path? Where should we be focused on our remediation efforts? And again, big stamp on the slide, AI does not fix this problem, it only accelerates it. And so what we're really left with is security leaders are unable to make and really measure the control effectiveness. That's difficult to justify investments in tooling. And most importantly, difficult to contain that risk to those live systems. And where we're seeing, again, the evolution, especially from a compliance perspective, is boards want dollar figures, not CVE counts. It's no longer acceptable to have a running list of CVEs, but really, what is that dollar figure for that exposure? What does this look like in terms of, cyber investment, and where are we in terms of, loss expectancy, not just CVE count? And we need to have proof that the controls that we have in place, that the investments we've made in these tools are actually working. So real evidence that our runtime protection is actually reducing risk, but in a measurable and a dollar figure amount. And that the evidence is actually, the number is coming down, that the more controls that we have in place, that the more that we're doing, not just on the left side, right, scanning and making sure the code that we have, pushing to production is good and quality and clean, but also everything that we have in place on the right side is traceable, and that we can actually put the dollar figure that we put this control in place, and this is effectively reducing our risk. And this is really changing and becoming more and more important as we look at additional compliance standards that are being set universally, right? Not just in the US, not just in the EU, but things like DORA, for example, PCI 4.0. And so the compliance landscape, as this continues to shift, makes a quantified risk reporting a requirement. So we'll keep that in mind as we get into the demo, but we really, not only are we having the constant challenge of more noise, but also the evolution of compliance, and that this is now dictating not just a running list, not just a CVE count, but really that dollar figure assigned to this risk exposure, and how organizations, what they are doing to limit that risk. So when we talk about Aqua and why Aqua in what we've prepared here today and what our advantages, as you can gather from the conversation so far, where we are really focusing our efforts especially in this AI world, especially in the, continued increase of exploitable vulnerabilities because of AI, because of things like Mythos that we spoke about last time, where we are focused is on runtime. And so what we are helping to do, and what we'll show in the demo in a few minutes, is move beyond these like list-oriented, very static dashboards into real decision grade information, things that you can actually see, you can understand what's happening in those running workloads and how to contain it, and how that containment measures in a dollar figure, that quantified runtime security. And so we're doing things a little bit differently with our dashboard and reporting capabilities. And this is important to note, right? It's not just another dashboard. It's not just another thing, that we're pushing out, but these three unique differentiators, which is, first, the visibility as code. So we're taking an API-based approach to what we're showing so that this data is programmatically consumable. So not just for, you yourself, but also for AI tools. But so what we're able to do is take this information, feed it directly into the tools that you're already using today. So your SIM tools, your data lakes, your GRC tools, we're becoming a system of record, not a closed set UI, right? We understand, Aqua is one of perhaps many, many, many security solutions that you're using. This information needs to feed into what you have already built within your organization. So first and foremost, everything that we're going to show you today is going to be available as code, as an API-based approach, so that you can use it in the environments that you're used to running today. The next is this direct access to this data. So enabling this direct querying so that your teams can ask specific questions and validate that data, or validate with live data. So being able to interact and interface with this data in a better, more consumable way for your teams. And then lastly, design not just for humans, right? But as we know where the world is going, and the beauty of AI is that now we will be able to support this, from an automation perspective. So the AI agents that you're running can actually read and consume and qualify and understand this information much faster than any human person could do. So really accelerating, what modern day security looks like. And so these new dashboards and what we're able to do and build and put together, this is going to significantly help reduce audit preparation time. If we're talking back on the compliance standpoint, what our boards are looking for, how we're supposed to be quantifying this risk, this is going to help better prepare and reduce that time to prepare for audits. We're going to help reduce security incidents because we're going to be protecting what's happening on the right side, not just the left. And because of where we sit, and we'll talk about it in a minute and be able to show in the demo, actually faster detection. And all of this relates back to how we're actually able to reduce risk within the organization. Again, not just based on some, theoretical number or just, a long list of a CVE count, but actual dollar figures, how we are reducing risk across the business. So what we're going to be showing, what we'll touch on, is our new Runtime Security Dashboard Suite. So this is our new suite of dashboards. If you came to visit us at RSA, you might have seen some of this, but what we'll really be focused on is an overall demo of these dashboards, but really what we're going to hone in on is our fair risk dashboard. So what we have available is, vulnerability management dashboard, our security KPI dashboard, so measuring across key KPIs, our fair risk, so again, being able to take that runtime security information and put that dollar figure and be able to analyze based on an annualized loss expectancy. Our cloud security dashboard, so being able to see how our vulnerability and runtime metrics are interacting. And then sort of what we like to call our good morning report, or our daily risk posture. So seeing how we are improving based on key security metrics. So this is the overall dashboard suite, just a little taste of what that looks like. As I mentioned, what we're going to be showing in a second here is our fair risk dashboard. So what we're really talking about, and the title of this webinar, being able to quantify risk in the language of business. We're actually grounding this information in real data. So, our vulnerability scans, our misconfigurations, our, Kubernetes posture, all that runtime behavior is all being fed into a ALE, annual loss expectancy calculation. So this isn't based on just quarterly information. This is actually live data that we'll be talking about. Each control that you put in place, so each of Aqua's runtime controls, are actually quantified. So again, as you put these controls in place, you'll start to see those dollar figures change. And this information is calibrated with your own numbers. So you'll hear from a second from Phil in our demo, how depending on your organization, depending on your industry, right, all of this information is very particular to your individual organization, your organizational industry. So all of this is calibrated with your own information. And it's audit ready from a single platform, from the Aqua platform. So this is going to be traceable to those compliance frameworks that that we spoke about earlier. It's not going to be stitched together information. Again, this is API based, so you can pull this information into your own dashboards, your own tooling that you're already working with. So I'm going to keep the intro short because we have a demo recording from Phil. So Phil Pearson is our field CISO. He is out at a customer site today, but he did a wonderful 12-minute overview. So this will take us just about to time on what these new dashboards look like, specifically honing in on the fair risk dashboard. And as I mentioned earlier, this entire session will be recorded. We will also pull out this individual recording and share it with you as well, so that you have this information. So I'm going to play now.
Welcome. Thank you for joining this 10-minute briefing. Over the next few minutes, I want to walk through how the cyber risk conversation is changing and why the fair risk model has become central to how Aqua engages with security leaders and boards. The title of this briefing is Closing the Patch Clock Gap. That gap is the space between when a vulnerability is discovered and when it can be safely remediated in a regulated production environment. For years, that gap was uncomfortable but manageable. In the AI era, it has become the single most important risk surface that most organizations are not yet measuring properly. What I will share is a control chain that operates across that window. Assurance before deploy, admission at deploy, eBPF-backed enforcement during execution, and containment after compromise. Equally important, I will show how to express the value of that control chain as a defensible dollar figure that your board can act on. That last point matters more than people realize. Vulnerability counts do not move executive decisions. Quantified financial risk does. Let's begin. The new reality. Before we get to the controls or to the mathematics, I want to ground this in evidence. AI-assisted vulnerability discovery is no longer hypothetical. It is finding real 0 days in real production code at machine speed. There are two examples on screen. On the left, Google's Big Sleep Agent, a project from DeepMind and Project Zero. In July 2025, it identified CVE ending 6965, a critical SQL flaw that Google has stated was already known to threat actors and on the verge of being exploited. Big Sleep caught it first. Since then, the same agent has gone on to find more than 20 vulnerabilities across ImageMagick, Chrome Angle, U-Boot, and Barebox. These are projects with decades of human review and traditional fuzzing already invested in them. On the right, XBOW, an autonomous AI penetration tester that became the first non-human to reach the top of the HackerOne United States leaderboard in 90 days. Over 1,000 validated findings, 54 classified as critical, an unknown vulnerability affecting more than 2,000 hosts. XBOW has already raised $120 million in 2026. The pattern is clear. These tools find variants of patched vulnerabilities, fuzzing-resistant memory bugs, and chained exploits at a tempo that human review simply cannot match. The asymmetry has flipped. Attackers used to need to find one bug to win, while defenders had to fix all of them. Now attackers have help finding many bugs faster than your patch cycle can ship a fix. That is the new reality, and the fair risk model needs to reflect it. Next, we will look at the fair risk model. This is the fair risk dashboard. Before we walk through it, here is a 30-second primer on what FAIR actually is. This should be helpful for people in the audience who do not have a deep FAIR background. FAIR stands for Factor Analysis of Information Risk. It is an open methodology that takes a vulnerability story and turns it into a financial story. The core equation is simple. Annual loss expectancy equals loss event frequency multiplied by the loss magnitude, reduced by the Aqua controls you have in place. Loss event frequency is how often a bad thing is likely to happen in a year. Loss magnitude is what it costs you when it does. Controls are what reduces that. Everything in this dashboard is a different cut of that equation. Look at the top 4 cards. Total risk is the residual annual loss expectancy across the estate after controls. Base risk is the same number with no controls applied. Risk reduction is the percentage difference between the two bars, which is the customer visible value of the Aqua platform expressed in monetary values. Controls active is how many compensating controls are currently mapped in. This next area is the risk by line of business table. Each row is a line of business. The platform has discovered through label mapping and Aqua application scopes, base and adjusted annual loss expectancy. After controls, the savings figure, the percentage reduction, the vulnerability count, the workload count, and the count of controls in effect. This table is the executive summary of the entire program. This page is where the platform stops being one size fits all. When working with customers on this over the last 6 months, they all say the same thing. They like the model. They do not like the defaults. One customer of ours thinks a critical breach costs them multiple billions of dollars. A regional bank thinks 100 million. A SaaS vendor thinks 10. They cannot all be right, and they cannot all use the same number. So fair calibration gives the customer a way to override the values without reshaping the model. That is the design rule. Values, yes. Structure, no. The customer can change what something costs. They cannot change the equation. They cannot invent new severity tiers. They cannot rewrite the control taxonomy. The model stays consistent. The numbers become theirs. Next, you will see 6 tabs. Loss magnitude is monetary values per severity tier. Exploit probability is how likely an attacker is to weaponize a vulnerability at each severity. Threat frequency is how often that severity of attack lands in a year per workload. Severity weights are the multipliers we apply when blending classes of vulnerability. The last 2 tabs, AI, threat frequency, and exploit probability, are the same shape, but for the new era profile. We will come back to those when we look at the AI. Risk dashboard. Every cell you see here is overridable. When an override is in effect, you get a small chip next to the value that says overridden. Hover the chip and you see who changed it, when, and what the default was. That audit trail matters for regulated customers, and it matters for internal audits. A customer needs to verify their numbers by making every change time-stamped and attributable. One more thing, notice the 3 preset buttons at the top of this page: TLV preset, primary loss preset, per event preset. These let you load demonstration sets of values quickly. Let me show you why those matter. 3 presets, 3 different risk conversations. The TLV preset uses total loss value numbers. TLV shows the all-in figure, including primary loss, secondary loss, regulatory exposure, brand damage, and recovery. This is a useful preset when talking to your board or when you have completed your own annualized loss work and you want the biggest credible number on the table. The primary loss preset strips secondary and reputational figures back out, critical at around 1 billion. This is useful for a chief risk officer who wants a defensible, conservative number they can put in a regulatory filing. The per event preset uses industry-aligned single incident numbers, critical at 100 million. This is useful with a head of security or a technical team who wants realistic per incident framing without the headline figures. Same fair model in all 3 cases, same dashboard, same equation, same control map. The difference is purely in the monetary values, and that is exactly what the calibration system is designed to allow. And once with the AI era profile, which assumes attackers have access to AI-assisted vulnerability discovery, AI-assisted exploit reproduction, and the ability to chain weaknesses faster than traditional patch governance can respond. Same workloads, same controls, same vulnerabilities in scope. The only thing that changes is the threat model. Let's look at the 3 top cards. Standard profile shows the residual annual loss expectancy under classical assumptions. AI era profile shows it under Mythos era assumptions. The Delta card shows the multiplier and the dollar difference between the two. In a typical estate, that delta lands somewhere between 5 and 10 times, sometimes higher. The reason is in the calibration we looked at on the previous tab. The threat frequency goes up because more vulnerabilities reach exploitable status faster. Exploit probability goes up because automated reproduction collapses the cost of weaponizing a finding. And the loss event frequency cap is lifted because in the AI era, the rate of incidents per workload can credibly hit numbers that the standard profile would treat as implausible. Look at the line of business table on this page. You will notice it shows the same LOBs the standard dashboard showed, and that is deliberate. The two views run on the same 90-day window, so you can directly compare. The rightmost columns show the AI era annual loss expectancy and the multiplier per line of business. This is the screen where you realize the conversation is not theoretical. Your own workloads, your own dollar values, twice the risk picture side by side. So let's close the demo. Starting with a brief overview of the operating model first, the sustainable response is 5 stages. Identify whether the affected component is actually deployed. Prioritize based on runtime exposure, privilege, internet reachability, and business criticality. Contain through admission control, runtime detection, drift prevention, and workload restrictions. Remediate through controlled engineering and change processes. And verify that the workload is either patched or contained until permanent remediation completes. That is the operating model. Aqua plays in stages 2, 3, and 5. Risk-based prioritization through workload and runtime context. Containment through image assurance, admission control, behavioral detection, and drift prevention. Verification through runtime telemetry and policy compliance evidence. Patching itself stays where it belongs with engineering. The Aqua message is therefore precise. We do not replace the patch. We help our customers survive the gap until the patch is safe to deploy. In a Mythos era estate, that gap is where the risk lives. And the size of that gap is exactly what the AI risk dashboard quantifies. So here is the picture in one frame, 2 profiles, 1 fair equation, 1 dashboard. The standard profile shows the customer the risk they have been carrying for the last 10 years. The AI era profile shows them the risk they are about to inherit. Same workload, same controls, same dollar values, run twice through the same equation. No other platform on the market does this. Fair quantification at the workload and runtime level. 2 threat models in the same view. Customer calibratable values without changing the model. And a control reduction term that is fed by Aqua's image assurance, admission policy, and runtime telemetry, not by a generic checklist. That is the demo. That is the value. That is the conversation.
What a great demo video from Phil. Again, apologize that we had to do that in a recording, but as I mentioned today, Phil is away at a customer site, and I know we promised 20 minutes and we're 3 minutes over, so I'm going to wrap us up quickly. Just a reminder to anybody who will be traveling to the Washington, D.C. area next week, Aqua will have a booth there. I will actually also be in attendance, so please come and visit us at booth 1031. For more information, we will be sharing, of course, the demo on our dashboards and then, of course, all things Aqua. So if you are attending next week, looking forward to seeing you there. And then lastly, for more information on the Fair Risk dashboard and the methodologies and the calculations that Phil just discussed, we did just recently this week publish a white paper where Phil goes into pretty significant detail on this dashboard itself, those controls that are put in place, and again, a little bit of a spotlight on what that methodology is, what those calculations look like. As he mentioned, they're unique to every organization, but it's a really great technical piece that you can download to get some more information. And as I mentioned, we're doing these sessions every last Thursday of every month, again, spotlighting either a new Aqua innovation or a timely topic in market. So again, please remember to register, and we will see you either at Gartner on Monday or in the next few weeks at our next session. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day.